Hey there, and welcome to my episode review. And for the first time, I'm doing something back to back, only because episode 7 of The Last of Us I felt doesn't have a lot to it, and it doesn't need like a basic full episode breakdown. But also, I'm recording this on a Sunday, and the season finale comes out tonight. I'm a little bit behind, so I want to do this and get this out before everybody sees how the finale ends. So I'm doing 7 and 8, and okay, first time doing this, but before we talk about this, let's get some Sprite Zero in. And yeah, I have something I tried on another stream, and it's this Long Island iced tea stuff. One second. Cheers, powerful. Okay, this is Long Island iced tea, and yep, let's see. We have rum, vodka, gin, tequila, triple sec, and this shit is potent to say the least.
Jones in for a little jet fuel?
Let's try this out and see how bad this is. I tried it last time with cranberry juice. I'm gonna try it with Sprite, and hopefully it goes down a lot better. Ready? Cheers. It's strong. Okay, not bad but powerful. So yeah, episode 7, and just call this what it is. It's Last of Us episode 7, the DLC. And the DLC, if you haven't played the game, basically DLC is downloadable content. Often happens with game developers when after the game comes out, they want to add some extra content. It's good and it's bad. For those of us who play the DLC, I felt like if it was for free, awesome. Paying for it, not so much, but it's about 90 minutes long because I've rewatched it, a gameplay walkthrough on YouTube before watching this episode, and I'll just tell you what's going on, and then we'll get right into episode 8, then I have to edit, okay? But before all that, I talk about it, well, enjoy my intro. I'm getting used to it, okay. So, Last of Us Episode 7, Left Behind, is based on the DLC called Left Behind. And what's going on is Joel is still recovering from his injury in the previous episode of the show. We only get to see Joel and Ellie for a couple minutes, and then we get into a flashback. The major difference between the game and the show is when you're controlling Ellie inside of the game, she's going into a mall, she's killing some infected and killing some people and trying to find supplies for Joel. All that stuff is gone in this episode because, as I said, it's about 90 minutes long and they condense this into 45 minutes. But what's happening? Well, as you know, watching the show and playing the game, Ellie, we all know, is immune, and she got bit. But how did she get bit, and how does she know this? This is where the DLC comes in. Basically, she has a character named Riley. She's played by Storm Reid, and off the bat, Storm Reid is adorable. She plays Riley very well. And to the credit of Bella Ramsey, I've had my criticisms with her playing Ellie, but we're seeing Ellie more vulnerable, more happy, more brightful, and just the Ellie that a lot of us knew from the game. But this is also Ellie before everything happens. She's talking to Riley. Riley left and she joined the Fireflies. To say the least, Ellie isn't happy. They have some exchanging words and ideology, but it comes down to an entire episode of two friends having a good time. And that's both a good thing and a bad thing. The good part is it's good seeing these two just trying to be normal for a change. It's good seeing Riley showing Ellie a world before a zombie apocalypse. They're playing video games, they're wearing like funny masks and stuff. And in terms of adaptations, I'm not gonna lie, it's a very excellent adaptation. They take dialogue and scenes directly from the game. That's all well and good. The problem is, I feel like this is what you would call a filler episode. Now, the basic issue is when you take shows like this, we'll take, say, for instance, Supernatural, The Blacklist, etc., shows that have 15, 20 episodes. You'd have your first 2 or 3 episodes talking about the main storyline, then a whole bunch of filler in between characters and whatever going on different side quests, and then at the end of it, getting back into the main storyline. Unfortunately, with The Last of Us, we're on episode 7, and the show is only going to last for 9 episodes. And I feel like if the show was 12 or 13 episodes long, I wouldn't care. This wouldn't be an issue. But as with episode 3 and Bill, which I did like, by the way, the issue I have is that episode 3 and episode 7 are big flashbacks, and for the most part, they're not adding anything new and adding the storyline forward, and we're taking away so much time and dynamic that we should be having with Joel and with Ellie. So it's well acted. I did like Storm Reid, and the character of Riley, you never hear about her again. So what happens? Well, we know she's eventually going to get bit and she gets infected. Obviously, Bella does as well, and they didn't show this inside the game or inside the show. For whatever reason, I thought that this would have been a lot more impactful to see Riley turn, and wouldn't it be so much more dramatic if Ellie, being her best friend, had to be the one to kill her?
Yes, it is a tragedy.
It is a tragedy.
Episode 7, Left Behind, not bad by any means, but if you skip it, you're just not missing much, okay? So, quick review, didn't want to ramble too much on. Now let's get into episode 8, which surprisingly I did enjoy a lot.
I was a little surprised at how good it was, actually.
Okay, episode 8 is called When We Are in Need. And at some point, if you want to, I'll just put a link for IGN. There's IGN and this one channel called Heavy Spoiler Clips. And in terms of adaptations, it really is perfection. Like, there's 18-minute videos out there that show the game and the show side by side, and they take exact same scenes, exact same dialogue right from the game. A couple minor things here and there, like Ellie has a bow in the game, but in the show she has a gun. But what's going on? Well, Joel is still recovering and she needs medication because I'm assuming infection and stuff, and he has a fever, and she runs into this character called David. David was basically the big bad guy in the game, and he's the bad guy in the show. It is cool as hell. We have to talk about this to see Troy Baker, and to me he's still the actual Joel. Like, no offense to Pedro, but Troy Baker is in this episode, and eventually, spoilers, she winds up killing him. So hey, it happens. It's part of The Last of Us. But Ellie is just scavenging. She comes across this guy, David, and he's like this big cult leader and stuff. And, I'll be careful what I say on YouTube, but he has a very selective interest in Ellie. And you can imagine what this interest is going to be. Giggity, 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 giggity. Ellie gets overpowered by a bunch of them, and she gets kidnapped, and now Joel wakes up. And some people said, like, okay, well, Joel in the show is doing the exact same stuff he did in the game. Yes and no. It's like, while the actions are the same, I gotta say this, something about Troy Baker and just his voice and the facial animations of Joel in the game, he's doing similar things, but inside of the game, I felt it was more impactful. It was a lot more brutal. It just feels like Pedro, it's like he was saying the exact same lines, but he wasn't emoting in the same way as Troy Baker was. So Joel finds out where Ellie's at, and he goes to save her. Now, this happened in the game and also happened in the show. It's the first time where Ellie can't rely on Joel, and basically she has to get out on her own, has to save herself, and she winds up killing the big bad. And at the end, Joel comes there and says things like, baby girl. Some people would say that, well, this is the episode where she can't rely on anybody but herself, but I felt like it was more impactful inside of the game, because this is the first time Ellie really has to fend for herself. She really has to take a life. It's the first time inside the game where she's not relying on Joel, and Joel can't save her. So far in the show, however, we've already seen this, which some people gave me shit about the whole Joel and PTSD thing, but Ellie has saved Joel in the show already. Ellie's already been out there for Joel when he's fallen asleep already. It seems like they're almost equals inside of the show, and while I'm not against that as a premise, the point of the game was that Ellie needs Joel. He's the father figure she's needed. He's he's a badass, he's a hunter, a survivor. He's teaching her about the world, and she's still a young girl that needs to rely on a father figure to help her out. It's like, so far in the show, we're 8 episodes in, and Joel feels more like an older brother, at least from what I'm seeing, than a father figure. So that's just my main complaint with episode 8 is, by all accounts, again, in terms of adaptations, it's fucking perfect. It's fantastic, but the context of this part in the storyline inside of the game just felt way more impactful than the show. But the show was still a good acted episode. It had issues with Ellie, issues with older gentlemen, we'll say, and just, yeah, I mean, there's not much more I can say about it. It's a quick breakdown, a very good adaptation, and that's pretty much it. And just one small thing I have to mention, because this is the age we live in. Inside of the game, Ellie, because she's hunting for food, and, her and Joel are pretty friggin' hungry, she kills a fucking bunny rabbit, and inside of the show, they had to take out her killing a bunny rabbit because people are too triggered by somebody who's starving killing a rabbit. And I'm like,
Are you serious? Are you serious?
like, seriously, out of everything going on with this zombie apocalypse, you're triggered by a girl who's starving killing a fucking rabbit for food. Like, oh, okay. But yeah, it's a quick recap of episode 7 and episode 8, and this is my only criticism and complaint going forward is that, guys, tonight we're going to get the season finale and episode 9. I'm not being pessimistic, I'm just being honest and being cautious and wary of how the finale is going to be. And last time I'll say it, 9 episodes, we have 1 more to go. I feel like they should have had at least 3 or 4 more to go to explore, this whole relationship between Joel and Ellie. And yeah, that's pretty much all I can say. So as I always do, I'm going to finish this, but then check my watch, get ready for the finale tonight, and see if it's any good. and as always, just give my honest opinion, okay? So let's finish this, but then I have to edit and get ready for work.
I hate my job.
Let's drink this and get Bender, okay?
This calls for a drink.
Again, not bad. It's better with Sprite, okay? And now I have to get ready for work.